Welcome back, everybody, to the Waste Nexus podcast. Brian and I joined by Christian Ruff today. Christian is former helicopter pilot in the 160th, and happy to talk to him. Last year, if you recall, if you were a Waste Nexus attendee in person, gave an incredible speech as our keynote speaker. And today is running Uncommon Elite, which I'm sure he can tell you about better than I will, but bringing together the best for businesses across the country. And so, want to welcome him today and thank him for taking the time out of this to talk to two goons who not only dress the same, but can put on glasses and look the same too. So, welcome, Christian. Thanks.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Christian, would you say that the 160th was more or less prestigious than being the initial keynote speaker at Waste Nexus? Where would you rank those two?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say probably being the keynote speaker is a little bit up, is higher up there. Yeah.
Event, that's
first time event. There's a lot of trust involved with that. So
well, you did characteristically say yes without actually knowing what I was asking for. So it was would you? And you were like, yes. I was like, can I finish?
So here's what I have in my notes, and then Christian, I want you to fill in the blanks. It's called the 160th SOAR. Do you say it? SOAR?
Yeah, SOAR. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the nickname's the Night Stalkers. Is that also accurate?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Special Operations Helicopter Pilot. That I know from following you online is an exceptional group and talking to you over dinner for 2 hours, trying to learn everything there was to learn about helicopters. And I guess just would love to start there and not only know some of the history and your experience in it, but even leading up to it, like what makes you choose to go into that, or do you get placed into that? Is that something where from age 6 or 8 or 10, you knew that that's what you wanted to do? Or is that something that you kind of go, well, I want to serve, I want to figure out how to offer myself for the country. And you kind of maybe go into that over a longer period.
There's a theme. There's generally a theme in my life where I think beyond like right after high school, my dad passed away when I was 17, when I was a junior in high school. And so that kind of left me to figure things out on my own. I had 2 younger sisters. My mom was more focused around them naturally. And so it kind of put me in this position where, for better or worse, I didn't have a lot of guidance and a lot was left up for me to just figure it out. Ended up going to University of Vermont, which was my safety school. And we're walking by, I'm at freshman orientation and we're walking down the street and there's this building up on a hill and it's the ROTC building. And I had an aunt and an uncle who were going to pay for all of my school. They were going to chip in, pay for everything, and I was going to be set. And that didn't really feel that good to me. And so I'm walking by the ROTC building and I'm like, you know what? The military has always been kind of interesting to me. I might as well go try that out. I go inside. There's this guy in there and he's short. He's a little bit chubby, kind of unassuming. And I start talking to him. He starts explaining the program. Well, it turns out he had his PhD in philosophy and was a Special Forces Green Beret officer. And so he said, hey, do you want to just try it out for a quarter and see what you think? And I said, yeah, that sounds good. And so I tried it out for a quarter and I liked it. And then they paid for the rest of my school. And then it came time to say, okay, what do you want to go do in the Army? And at the time, there's 12 different branches: infantry, engineering, aviation. And I'm at this event where you go to all these different tents for each branch and you meet officers who are serving in that branch and they pitch you on it. And to be honest, everybody seemed really uptight except for the pilots. They seemed pretty laid back. And so I said, okay, well, maybe I'll try and go do that. I knew nothing about flying, had never flown in anything other than a airliner. And I got into flight school. And was like, okay, cool. Let's see what this is like. And I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Hated flight school, hated everything about it. It's in southern Alabama in the middle of pecan fields. I didn't like the way that It's very scripted, the instruction, you're following a very scripted agenda every day for 2 years. Hated it, and it came time to choose your duty station, and I put a couple different preferences, all of which were basically stateside, and they came back with, "Hey, do you wanna go to Germany?" And I was like, "That sounds interesting. I might as well go try that," and did that, ended up loving it. Really enjoyed the flying, had some great instructors, and I had a commander who had come from the special operations community, come from the 160th. He was the first commander I had, and the way that that guy led, set expectations, was tenacious, built morale and a lot of accountability. I was like, "You know what? That guy seems cool. I would like to be like that some more." And by the end of my time in Germany, I'd done okay as a pilot. It progressed nicely. And I was like, I wanna be more like him and around people who are like him, but there's not really a lot of information out there about the 160th. From the standing on the conventional side, nobody really knows what they do. Nobody really knows a whole lot about how you get there. You don't really know a lot about the day to day, what it's like being there. And I said, well, cool. I might as well go see if I can do that. And that led me to getting in. Their assessment process is pretty brutal. It's one of the more challenging things I've had to do. It's very short, but it's very taxing on the mind. But then the training pipeline, which is about 12 months long, that was one of the more enduring challenges that I've had to face. And then the last kinda opportunity for me to just like, okay, go see something out is they ask you to rank your preference in aircraft and your preference in location. And there's 3 aircraft: Chinooks, Little Birds, and Blackhawks. And there's 3 locations: Seattle, Savannah, and Port Campbell. And I said, "I want to fly Chinooks in Seattle." And I put anything that was an attack airframe at the very bottom of the list. I think I noted that, or like, I don't wanna fly an attack aircraft, and I wanna either be in Seattle or Savannah. And lo and behold, I got probably the most aggressive attack aircraft that exists in the military, and I got, Kentucky. So, I was just back in another position of like, well, I might as well go might as well go try this. Might as well.
But at every turn, you didn't have to ask permission, right? Each of those little steps along the way, you decided for yourself?
In a way. Yeah, in a way, like, I decided for myself I wanted to go try out there, um, but I never in all of those situations, I never really knew what I was getting myself into.
Good foe.
Yeah, and then, of course, on my way to the 160th for training, I met my now wife. We started dating. So she's watching these 12 months as I go through this training, of which both of us have 0 idea of what it's actually gonna look like. I was like, they have pretty predictable schedules, and they're pretty focused around the family. It's a really tight-knit community, high culture, so I'll probably deploy at some point, but it's like everything's kinda, like, scheduled and scripted out, and I think it's gonna be great. And, I finished the training. She moves to Nashville. We move into our house. The second week she's there, my commander, who I have not yet met, calls me on a Friday and is like, "Hey, you're leaving on Monday morning." I was like, "Where am I going?" He's like, "I can't tell you over the phone." And then I said, "Okay, where? How long am I going for?" And he's like, "We don't really know." And I was like, so I go to my girlfriend, now wife, and I was like, "Hey, so I'm leaving on Monday. I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know when I'm going to be back." And that just started the next 4 years of living on the edge and just waiting for a phone call to come in to go somewhere. And again, she didn't really know what we were getting into. I didn't really know what we were getting into, but we just kind of figured it out.
That's not that's not an easy layup right off the bat, is it? Just
No, no, no. We got engaged pretty quickly after the first deployment. We got engaged pretty quickly. Yeah, yeah. Because we were like, okay, this is what this is going to be like. Um, and I would say
well, she was still there when you got back, so that's a good sign.
it's a good sign. It's a good sign. She had a pretty good setup where I would go disappear and she would come and hang out with her parents in Hilton Head. Um, but I would say that's really been a theme, and that's kinda how it's led me here today. A friend of mine asked if I could help him find a COO, and I said, "I'm sure I can figure it out." I ended up finding a guy, and then somebody else asked, and, Vivo. Yeah.
It's interesting. So I came across you on Twitter, right? And I think I told you this at one point. After your keynote last year, I spent 3 days digging through the internet, finding everything you've ever written.
Oh. Hmm.
And this was before I was ever any good at using AI type stuff. And I put all that into a single document and then curated it in a way that made sense for our company. And I turned that into our hiring process, um, which is basically your hiring process. I don't know if you've ever done that, to write everything you've ever taken and put it into one thing.
I've not,
But
no.
well, the book will sell. I'll tell you that, because it's been a positive outcome here to look at attributes over resumes, right? Because when I look back on the successful hires we've had over the years and the unsuccessful ones, when I trusted the resume was when I got burned. When I was able to understand, okay, what makes this person, what motivates them and why, and then teach them the skills after the fact. Okay, that that results in a better outcome in my experience.
One of our other online friends is also from Pittsburgh. Jeremiah tweeted something yesterday that fits that, which he was talking about sales. He was saying if there's sales experience, like I'm paraphrasing, but the point was basically don't worry about that. Like look for all the other attributes that are on there. The sales experience might be the least
That
applicable.
was yeah, that I mean, he nailed it with that, and this is only as of actually, it happened to me today. I'll just say no to people who reach out, who want to hire somebody like, I need somebody with experience in this industry, and I have to have it. No, I just say no.
What do you find that like uh, I can only imagine what the daily routine is like. And then when you're in the 160th, right? And then a portion of that is, a large portion of it, I'm sure, like personal discipline, right? Eating right, sleeping right, staying in shape, all that kind of stuff. And that I'm assuming is a large
Not
bucket
that much.
of
Not really.
no. Okay, well, let's assume that it's there. But then Brian and I both like to do some level, even though he has a lot of kids, and my wife and I have a lot of kids too. But still like to do some level of adventurous sports or whatever. And so I can only imagine if you were like flying, I'm guessing daily for 4+ years, that's a very hard like gap to replace, because I would imagine it's hard to get in a helicopter that is not what you were flying then, and get the same sort of rush or just satisfaction out of it. So what's that like, and also like what is that daily routine, and how do you kind of lean back into that in a positive sense, because I'm sure it's difficult to not be able to go do that, because I'm sure it was very, very fun to fly those.
The routine in the 160th is well, there really isn't much of a routine. I mean, I'll give you an example. I might come in on a Monday at 9 o'clock and do some planning and work with the guys. And then Tuesday, I come in at noon. I fly till 2 a.m. And then I come back in on Wednesday at 6 a.m. to prep for a meeting. But then I fly again till 3 a.m. And then Thursday is a normal day. And Friday, I'm flying all day. Every day is just kind of can be a crapshoot. The things that I've taken from how we operate to like one of my businesses right now is there every morning at 8 o'clock. There's a daily stand up where they go through aircraft maintenance, and it's scripted and somebody's leading it. And each organization, so whether you're the Chinooks or the Blackhawks, they meet at 8 o'clock on the dot and they run through what aircraft are, where they stand with maintenance, which are flyable, which are kind of set on the side for alert, and what the priorities are for the day. Because really, Yeah, we did a lot of flying, but you can't fly unless you have maintained aircraft. And that happens every day without fail. So now the main effort of the organization, which is maintenance, not necessarily flying, is coming in and they're orienting around the day. Everybody has their priorities, and then the next day you're tracking. All right, did we do the things that we said we're going to do? And yes or no? What do we have to make up? And now let's ship for the next day. Same thing deployed. You'd come in. It'd generally be in the afternoon because we flew at nights, and there'd be a daily stand-up. And at that daily stand-up, we would cover what we were targeting and any updates there and what the plan is for the day. And that happened every day without fail. So there's this underlying consistency of setting expectations, setting priorities, and holding each other accountable to it. That, like in my trades recruiting business, that's the most effective thing that we do. Every
Yeah, that's
morning at
the waste
8:30
industry has
without
that.
fail. Yeah.
Yeah, every morning they have a safety briefing, is what I understand
Yep.
from a lot of companies,
Yeah.
and every morning they have a send off in some variety.
Yep. I think that most companies, at least most companies I've seen, especially in like the home services trade space, they skip that. And so they don't have this underlying consistency. The other thing that we did is every week we just had a training meeting. And if you're familiar with EOS and like a level 10 meeting, it's a lot like that. Tracking our goals, looking at the scorecard, which was the scorecard for us was proficiency of our pilots. That's basically the currency in which we operate. Going through action items, walking through issues, and then assigning actions for the next week. That happened without fail. And then every quarter, we would take a look at where we needed to be as far as training and proficiency and events and maintenance. And we'd sit down and come up with a plan that was oriented around our yearly goals and honestly, like 18 months in advance. And that dictated our line of effort for the quarter. So you have goal setting, you have tracking KPIs, you have setting a pace, like a daily pace that everybody keeps up with. And so in the mess that is Christian gets a phone call on Friday and disappears for 45 days, or, I get a phone call in walking into a yoga class and get a phone call and within 18 hours I'm in Iraq, the team still operates despite the chaos. That is what I have seen be the most effective in some of the businesses that I've operated in when I got out and what I'm doing today.
Interesting element of that, because I've heard you talk about this before. The When you have a multi-time zone, geographically diverse team, I converted that 8 a.m. stand-up into a 8 a.m. email. So I send an email automated to the people that on my team, and I ask them every day, "What are you up to today?" A very simple thing is to say, "What are you up to today?" Because some days you don't have touch points with everybody, right? They're working on their thing, you're working on your thing. You may not actually speak to them. But if I have that 8 a.m. reply from them, and it can be 3 lines, "Hey, I'm working on this, this, and this." I then have a touch point of what they're doing. I can course correct if I need to. Say, "Hey, I don't want you working on it. It's not important right now. Push that to next week." Or I can dig in and say, "Oh, I'd like to be involved in that," or "I'd like to hear how that's going. Update me." And it's funny, it annoys some people, and I tell them early on, like, "This will annoy you at some point. This will become monotonous and tedious, but it's necessary for you and I to stay in contact on a daily basis of just take 1 minute. What are you up to?" Right? So there are ways to do that that aren't always in person.
For me, I think it helps with the prioritization, it helps with the expectations and the do outs. For me, more than anything, it's setting a pace.
In terms of, did you get it done?
And
I feel like you're kind of hardwired for that.
what's that?
You're hardwired from that, from my observation of talking a couple times through these things, where when you, and I think a lot of your talent that you're helping work with these companies, when you're used to, like, I think you described it again, sort of paraphrasing, you're able to pick a point, geospatial point, and within like plus or minus a second, you can commit to being there. And that was like mind blowing to me. But you're like, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the expectation. We're going to be at this place at this second or at these couple seconds, and that's how we coordinate when we're out flying. And I feel like that probably just really rewires your brain for,
Yeah.
right? Who's on your team? What's the commitment level of your team members? What's the coordination capability of the organization and the people that, you're quote unquote in the trenches with? To the point where, we joke that we see dumpsters when we walk around and look at the back of a building, stuff like that. And, your brain's probably much more attuned to just like seeing high performers, seeing, teams that can coordinate and that kind of stuff. And that's a very cool thought to be able to have really hardwired that into your head.
Maybe to a detriment sometimes. I hate being late. I really can't stand being late to things, but, yeah, as a baseline, yes. Yeah, very good.
You were early to this podcast,
I was early. I was early. I was early.
but now your
Uh,
biggest fear is what? Missing up dinner for Thanksgiving with the extended family, right?
yeah, yeah, being late with the barbecue. Yes. I think that's probably the one thing I don't set expectations for because, I don't know, haven't nailed that yet. Um, but yeah, I mean, we would set, yeah, plus or minus 30 seconds anywhere in the world. We would set that expectation, not necessarily for ourselves, but for who we were working with.
Right.
And if we had to deviate, because there were definitely times where we had to deviate where your plan just you have a plan and then you take off and the plan doesn't exist anymore. And now you're going to be 45 minutes behind. You could still make a plus or minus 30 seconds if you communicate that, hey, we're shifting 45 minutes.
So in your world, going from a analog, essentially analog experience, I imagine the beginning of the military to where you are now, AI is everything. Everybody's all focused on it. One of the talks we're going to give at our Waste Nexus event. What do you see from where you sit today in terms of how people are keeping that mentality of, okay, excellence, attributes, on time, and yet they're introducing this thing of, okay, I now have this machine that can do a lot of this for me. Like, how does that work from what you're seeing in these? Because you're working with HVAC companies, you're working with all types of different varieties of companies.
I mean, AI doesn't remove the need for good leaders. I may be totally wrong.
I love the brevity of your answers. It's so good.
I may be, but I've thought about this because I've thought about like, how is AI going to, what effect is AI going to have in my business? I think it's going to help me. I think it can help me find guys faster, build up my network, but no AI. I don't believe, and I would welcome to be wrong on this. I don't believe that any AI tool is going to be able to find candidates and know, hey, this is going to be a better fit. Sure, you may be able to find, may help you find military people easily for the job, but it doesn't take away we still gotta know if they have the attributes to do it.
Yeah, I look at it as a force multiplier in both positive and negative. Right? If you're good at something, it helps make you better. If you're mediocre at it, it's going to expose that you're mediocre, and the results are going to be even worse because you're going to go faster towards the ground.
The reality is some of the people that I come across with their backgrounds, they may be better as an individual contributor than as a leader, and now is the position that they have in the military, and they were really, really good at it.
Yeah.
Or, and I see this a lot, and it's surprising to me, some of these guys that I'm looking at are way more hardwired for sales than they are operations. And they may have been a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret and be in these organizations that just scream like highly effective leaders. Yeah, but they're better at sales.
That comes out in the attribute side when you're doing the assessment. The assessment thing's pretty fascinating. Most people have a hard time. They understand attributes versus resume. They have a hard time converting that concept into assessments.
So what have you guys done?
We wrote a Bible of assessments that you can use, you can draw from.
What are the assessments like tactically? What have you done?
A bunch of them are just situational, conversational type things. One of the ones that you've used and I've stolen is the one at the counter with the guy with the coffee and he steals the bar. Right, that's an easy one. But that one works, right? It exposes some very basic. Okay, how do you approach a conflict situation, and what are your ethics, right? I mean, most of what the business world struggles on is communicating in conflict situations and ethics. Like half of my college courses were business ethics.
That's how I do it. I mean, situational, what I advise is fabricate the reality of the role and test the individual inside of it. And so on my assessment for the 160th did that for, I guess, like 5 days or something. But at the very end, I was given, a case study. I was given this mission that I had to go plan, and there was components of that mission that I had never even thought about doing. Taking off from a boat, flying over water, aerial refueling, landing on a mountaintop that is outside of the environmental,
Landing on a building in Pittsburgh at night.
landing on a building in Pittsburgh, and I was given this, like, "Hey, here's the mission, you have to go plan it," and I don't know how to do any of this stuff. But the reality was that I was going to have to go and plan and execute some of those things in a couple of years, and so I think it was like 10 hours to come up with a plan, and I had 5 minutes plus or minus 30 seconds to brief what I was gonna do. And looking back at the answer that I gave is just laughable because it's so far off what you actually would do or have to do. But the point wasn't what answer do I come up with, the point was how do I arrive at that answer?
That's to me, that's part of it. But there is sometimes like we did an assessment of a technical role uh, in the past year inside our company, and one of the candidates that was put forth, hiring manager was all gung ho, good person. It's okay. What was your assessment? What do you mean assessment? I said, well, remember we have to assess these people, especially if they're in a technical role. Like, can they do the actual technical piece? So, did you put them in a situation where they could do the technical piece? And so, this person ginned up an assessment. Sent it to the person. Said, here, get this back to me tomorrow, and it came back poor, right? And that weeded that person out. And otherwise, we would have hired that person, sat with them for 90 days, and then realized, oh, this is a bad person. And then, as a result, the person we got instead has killed it. Absolutely been amazing.
I think it's really important to know when experience matters and when it doesn't. Because in reality, in some roles it does. I have a client who has a large, real estate tax and accounting firm, and they weren't doing technical assessments for the tax people they were bringing in. Like, well, with tax stuff, like, you've got to know you gotta know the rules and the regulations and what to do.
Mostly black and white.
Yeah, mostly black and white, and unless you have a way to train the technical part, then, yeah, you certainly have to look at it. We had the benefit of we had a 12-month period in which we had over a 90% success rate of training the technical piece. So we could filter out for the attributes in the beginning and then have the confidence on the backside and the time and resources to say, we're going to train you how to do all this stuff. And then know at the end of it that they're going to produce someone who in 2 weeks can go deploy and be somewhat self-sufficient inside of an aircraft. Most businesses don't have that though. They don't have 12 months to train someone, right? Like, yeah, 12 months is a long time. So there certainly is a time where you experience counts. But I would say predominantly most over index on it.
One interesting, I'd say, alignment for some of the roles that we have are actually people who have played PC video games before, which is kind of ironic, but and it's actually maybe becoming a little bit more applicable with being able to delegate things to a bunch of AI things, waiting 5 minutes and then seeing the output of them.
Yeah.
And that one just makes me laugh because, like, I think in the past it would have been more of like okay, this job requires writing a lot of emails. How fast can you type and can you write well? And I think there's a place for that type of. That's not necessarily, I guess you'd call an attribute, but it's more of just like a, I don't know, professional competency kind of thing.
No, I would like to think that my 12 years of having to practice the cello for 3 hours a day had a lot of relevance for flying helicopters.
But I just think, I think there's going to be a shift and I think we're seeing a shift in some of the things that, certain people's background and skills, give them an edge in some ways. And that a lot of the administrative things are maybe a little bit less prioritized, but also being able to maybe juggle 2 or 3 things in the past was kind of try not to do that, focus on the one task. And now, I don't know, it's kind of just the nature of the work. And that's something we're trying to balance with how we do these assessments, depending upon the role. So no, it's interesting to see the shift.
The important thing is that you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah, they can be imperfect, but
Oh, they're certainly imperfect.
My understanding of I never really got into the assessment process. We would have guys come and assess, and I would be there and watch how they're doing, but it wasn't really my thing to do. It was usually one of the instructor pilots that was doing it. But there's a whole assessment division within the 160th that has a dedicated team that's all they do. And after every assessment process, they sit down and debrief it and say what went well, what didn't go well, what do we need to do differently to make it better. So they're constantly iterating on getting better and better and better. And companies that do that, like, yeah, it's always going to be imperfect. But if you're looking at it and you're critiquing it and saying, what could we do better? Your predictability of finding the right people up front will continue to increase.
yeah, that's probably something we need to be better at, is actually going back and self-critiquing after the fact. But I get the feeling that no matter how much you do that, you'll always say like, yeah, they could be better.
Yeah, I mean, we had that happen. Like, guys would certainly get through and then get to the organization and be flying, and then you realize they're not a good fit. Like, when I was there, we had 3 guys that had gone through the process, 2 of which had been there for, like, probably 2 years or so before they departed, and 1 guy who'd been there for over a decade,
Wow.
and something got missed.
Yikes. That's a long time. Well, I said before our thing started, I had a tweet that you'd done at one point that I was going to bring up. So it's a pilot of this helicopter is in his 20s and wearing a Timex. And it's the guy flying up all along the ship. And I chuckled at it because it's very much on brand for you, right? It's very brief, right? It's very much to the point, and it's very much just amusing in its use. It's really the Timex thing, I think, is what drove it. That's my 2 cents, right? But part of what we're going to talk about our event this year is I've got Spencer Scott coming, and he and I are going to give a talk on branding and social media and all this, and it is a art form in some ways and a science to be able to take something like that and produce it, right? Which is, here's a video of a helicopter flying by and landing or not landing, whatever it's doing. And some people present that as a technical description. Oh, here's a Chinook, da, 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 da. And those people's eyes glaze over. Like, I don't know what the hell that means. Great, it's a helicopter flying by. To turn it into something that people actually click on, engage with, and then share, and get some emotion out of in some capacity, whether it's humor or whatever, is a skill set, right? And I get the sense that in part it's just your personality that's driven that. It's not that you like studied it and learned it. It's just who you are.
I think so. I mean, I think it was some kid that posted, buy a Rolex, go into debt if you have to. Like, if you're in your 20s, buy a Rolex, go into debt if you have to, and that took off. And I was just thinking, I was like, well, when I was in my 20s, I was doing that with a shitty Timex because you didn't want to have a digital watch next to the radar on a ship. Admittedly, in that video, I was in the right seat, holding on for dear life, and the guy, the actual pilot in command, who's still there today and has done some outrageous things very successfully. He was the one actually actually fly that thing, and I was just it was I think it was my first time doing that, and I was just like, wait, this ship's very, very close." So,
Yeah, and bobbing.
yeah, yeah.
Right. But
Um,
that's, you know, that's part of your business is being online as a presence, as a personality, right? You do the podcast with Matzner from time to time. You've been on here now, and then like, what else are you doing as part of that routine?
it's really just come down to posting on X and LinkedIn and talking about the roles that I'm hiring for and talking about the guys that I'm talking to and just trying to have some fun with it. Like a
Have you started writing the book yet?
no, no. It's not a bad idea, and I've certainly have thought about it. But really, like my best marketing is just being consistent on social media, and I have been surprised the number of referrals that I've gotten from people who follow me and refer me to their friends. They don't have a hiring need, but their buddy does.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, you generate a trustworthy atmosphere of, personality around you, right? You have results to prove, and it's a very clearly understandable product, very narrowly niched, right? No, I think a book is in your future simply because one, you've never taken all your stuff and collected it into one thing, and two, I think as a credibility part, I think it's a massive boost in credibility of like, oh, he has a book, and like people perceive that as a major credibility thing. It's a post.
Yeah, it's I have thought about it. It's been on the back of my mind. I already have the title.
It's rough out there,
That's actually a good one too. No, yeah, that's
but don't give the title here. Wait till it comes out.
yeah, I won't give it away. I probably should there's probably a word in there I probably shouldn't say in a recording. But it will be the title of the book. I'd have to give more thought into what the content would be, and I think there are people who are better at what I do. So there's a guy who's active on X, Dan Parker. He was a flight lead, Chinook flight lead for the 160th, which is the very tippy top of skill set and leadership in that organization. I think he's better at planning and assessing people than I am. So if I was the thought that I've had is if I was going to do something like this, I would bring in the real experts um, to help do it.
Yeah, there's books like that where you have 3 chapters and somebody else has 3 chapters, and there's chapters from different people. One way to do it.
Well, in any event, keep the social media posts up because I know we joked about it earlier of you doing a training exercise here in Pittsburgh, and there are a bunch of training exercises. I think they like to fly the rivers here. But it's funny just seeing how different people think. I think it activates some sort of latent space. So I'm driving home the other day, and if I wasn't driving, I would have taken a picture of it. There were 3 helicopters flying, and they did not look anywhere near as tight in formation as maybe some of the stuff that you post. And I thought about taking a picture of it and sending it to you. Say, well, what do you think of this? Are they doing good, or do they need to tighten up? And I don't know. It's just you look at a world a different way when you get some commentary like that, and it's interesting. I know there's a bunch of ones flying around from the Blue Angel flyovers and stuff like that, which was going on this summer. Just interesting to see everybody's perspective on that. And, I think that keeps you front of mind of people, for those referrals and stuff like that. As I see helicopters, I think of you guys.
Well, so if you're in the waste industry and you're give me your pitch. My would be if you're in the waste industry and you want leaders, call Christian. But what would yours be?
I mean, that's pretty good. The one hire that solves all your leadership problems.
All right, that's good. That's good. I like that. Well, so Chuck, do you want to wrap up on anything else, or do you want to take us home?
What's your favorite? Assuming the weather's good, assuming I don't know, you don't have to carry anything or whatever. What kind of car are you driving and where?
Man, I've bought a lot of cars in the last 6 years, and this is the longest I've gone without buying and selling a car. It's a 1999 Toyota Land Cruiser with 230,000 miles on it. And Every day I go on to Auto Trader and Car Gurus and look at 2022 F-250 King Ranches as if I'm going to buy one. And I just keep coming back to like, why would I drive anything other than a 1999 Toyota Land Cruiser? So
You got to hit up. You got to hit up Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids and get a little sporty stick shift in there.
I do. I bid on a car. I bid on a soft top FJ40 on Sunday, and it was definitely like a project. Like it was based. I don't even think there was a soft top to it. The guy just like drives it around to like buy milk and stuff. And I bid on it. And then I was like, oh shit, I hope I don't win. I hope somebody else bids on it. And I was like, it took a day and then somebody outbid me by $200.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God.
Well, we should keep with tradition and do a little lightning round, which I did not prepare, but I will make one up right now. So you ready? These are quick answers. You ready? All right. So who wears it better?
Brian,
As I
Yeah.
make my stubby
Brian.
neck.
you.
Is the Pope Catholic?
Yes.
Where did he go to college?
I don't know.
Villanova.
Villanova? Got
Cook and smoke meat for a day, or sit in a helicopter for a full day.
Is the helicopter flying?
Yeah.
You're flying the helicopter.
Barbecue. No.
If you had to sell the Toyota FJ, or not the FJ, the Land Cruiser, and you had to choose between a G-Wagon or a Cayenne.
Ooh. Is neither an option?
You can walk. Yeah, you can walk.
All right, I'm taking old G-Wagon. How about that?
Old, see, that's the trick. Old G-Wagon. Right?
Old G-Wagon. Yeah.
They did have the original Cayennes came in a stick and were really good off road. So,
Okay. All right. Didn't they have they had a diesel one? Didn't they have a turbo diesel one?
Turbo diesel. Yeah. The Volkswagen had a turbo diesel in their Touareg thing too.
Yeah, same footprint as the Touareg, right?
Yeah. Okay, that was fun. We'll do that. That's good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Thanks everybody for listening to the Waste Nexus podcast today, and thanks for Christian for spending some hours listening to us banter back and forth and fanboy over helicopters and cars. Stay subscribed and listen up for some more content coming out around Waste Nexus, which is this September in Pittsburgh, PA. We will have some more content coming out ahead of and following that, both of some of the sessions that we have there and some of the interviews of different attendees during that. And yeah, looking forward to staying in touch. And Christian, thanks again.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Time.